first tell us your name?
And Destefano.
Okay. And when were you born, Grandma?
1919.
1919.
August the 28th.
August the 28th, 1919. And what town were you born in?
Phoenixville.
Phoenixville. So the reason for this interview today is because I want to talk about the time you spent on Wallace Street in Philadelphia. What year did you move to Wallace Street? About. Or maybe you could tell us around the age you were when you moved there.
I was about 10 years old.
So maybe
10 or
about
11,
1930 is
something
when you
like
moved
that.
there. And this was at the start of the Depression.
That's true.
Why did your mother move to Wallace Street from Phoenixville?
Well, she invested in an apartment building in Philadelphia on Wallace Street.
Oh, okay.
And we had the first floor apartment, then she rented out the rest of the building.
Oh, I see. What was your mother's name? Full name?
Her maiden name?
What did she go by at the time that you were moving to Philadelphia?
Oh, Welly. Mary Welly.
Spell the last name?
W-E-T-T-Y.
W-E-T-T-Y. And what was your sister's name?
Margaret.
Margaret. And did all three of you go by Weddy at the time?
Right.
And how about what was the age of your sister compared to you? She was older?
She was about a year and 8 months older than me.
A year and 8 months. Did you have any other brothers or sisters?
No.
Okay. And so you moved to Wallace Street at about 1930. And what do you remember about when you first arrived in Philadelphia?
Well, it's a very busy, active place compared to where I lived in Phoenixville. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it.
Yeah? Was it busy at your apartment building? Was it already rented out when you moved there, or?
Yes.
So she invested in a place that was already renting. It didn't need to be fixed up or
No.
anything like that.
All the apartments were rented.
Hmm.
We had the first floor.
Yeah. What was the day like working or being around that apartment? What were some of the things that you did in your house? Like cleaning, you mentioned cleaning your stoop every morning.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to scrub the front steps every day. They were concrete. And
They were beautiful though, right? The stoop was very important.
They were beautiful, and most of the people had maids there, but we didn't. I was the maid.
Yeah. So you and your sister shared?
Yeah.
Did you do the stoop together or?
No, we took turns.
Oh, okay. So she would do it one day, you would do it the next?
Something like that.
Yeah. And then the only
we
other
had to clean the hallways.
in between the buildings?
No.
Oh, the hallways inside the building.
Inside.
Hmm. How about that space that's in between the row houses?
That was like an alleyway.
Yeah. Did you have to clean that out as well?
It was never dirty.
No. Nowadays they get really dirty.
Oh,
People go by and sometimes they throw trash in there.
we never had that problem.
You know, I was looking on the internet at your street, and your whole block is protected by the Historical Society of Philadelphia.
No kidding.
All the facades have to remain as they are or the way they were when they were first built.
Really?
Hmm. Your street is very popular now.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, most of the apartments or most of the houses on your block are split up to, five condominiums per unit, per house.
Really?
Yeah. So if you went down that street today, it would probably look very much like it did when you lived there in 1930.
Oh,
So how long do you remember being in Philadelphia? 1, 2, 5 years? It was under 5, right?
well, my mother lost the building during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
She had to give it up. And it broke her heart. She was very upset over that.
What do you remember about her losing it? Why?
Well, these two men came and inspected our building, and they told my mother she would have to leave because they were taking over her building because she couldn't afford it.
Was that because people weren't paying the rent?
I guess, I don't know.
Because you would think if she was renting to four other apartments, you said?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4,
So you had your apartment and 4 others.
right,
So if they were paying their rent, then you probably could have made rent. But because it was depression, they probably couldn't pay their rent.
probably.
Do you remember anyone ever being evicted by your mother?
No, I don't remember. I was only like 10 years
Yeah,
old.
I know. I'm just saying. So the people, when you first moved there, were the same people that were living there when you left?
I think so.
Yeah. So when you, we talked about this before, is when you left your house. Well, first of all, describe to us where you were on the block. On the corner of, let's say you were standing right in the middle of the street at 20th and Wallace.
I was near a corner,
Near the corner.
yeah.
So when you looked at the front of your building, would you say you were looking towards Philadelphia, the city?
Oh,
So you were on the north side of 20th or Wallace Street.
yeah, I think so.
Yes. To your back would have been the prison. About a
Right.
few blocks over.
Yeah, that was
Fairmount.
the prison.
Yes.
It was only a couple blocks away.
Right. Do you know Al Capone was held at that prison? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in there. It's one of the famous inmates.
I wonder what year he was in there.
I think it was the late 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be when I was living there.
You were there in the early 30s.
Oh,
So you were close to the corner, probably on the north side of Wallace Street. And there was a corner store there, wasn't there?
yeah.
What did they sell there?
I think it was a fish market.
Fish market. Do you remember who the owners were? Was it like a ethnic group? Were they Jewish or Chinese?
They were probably Italian.
Italian fish market.
Yeah, I think so.
And you also mentioned that in back of your house there was an ice cream store. Or an ice cream factory.
Factory. They made the ice cream.
Oh yeah? It was good ice cream?
Oh, very good.
Yeah? And you were a little girl, so you'd go and ask them for ice cream and they would give it to you?
You didn't have to ask, they just gave it to you.
Yeah?
Yeah, if they were out having their lunch,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they'd give us ice cream.
Well, that must have been nice during the Depression, right?
Yeah,
Can't afford all those things. So,
it was nice.
yeah. So now if you walked out of your front door, standing on the stoop that you cleaned, and say you had to get to your school, where was your school?
The reason I had to clean it was because we didn't have a maid.
Yeah,
Most of the people in the whole block had maids
and drivers. They had,
and chauffeurs,
yes.
but they didn't really bother with us.
Mm-hmm. Now your neighbor on the on the other side of your place, not the store side, the other side, you had a friend, a young boy. He was about the same age as you.
Yeah.
What was their last name?
Yeah, I think the last name was Drew.
Drew.
I'm not sure, but I think that's what it was.
That sounds Irish. Are they an
Yeah.
Irish family?
Pardon me?
Were they an Irish family?
Probably, but they were on the high class side,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't associate with everybody.
Yeah. Huh. I bet if you had a name like Deary, they would have liked you. With a name like Drew, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So he was your friend, though?
Yeah. Yeah, we liked each other.
Did you go to the same school?
No. He went to a private school.
Mm-hmm. His chauffeur would take him to school in the mornings?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah.
Their car was always outside, up front,
Uh-huh.
and they just didn't associate with everybody.
Right. And you had, there were brick sidewalks?
Yeah,
Or were they slate?
brick.
Brick. Some sidewalks in Philadelphia had slate and some had brick.
If I remember correctly, it was brick.
So now as you walked out your front door in the morning to go to school, what direction was your school in? Did you go to the right or the left? If you went to the right, you'd be heading up towards the art museum. If you went to the left, diagonal to the left, you'd be heading towards City Hall.
Well, I headed towards the left, but then I had to make another left
Uh-huh.
to get up to Spring Garden Street
Yes.
and go down a little bit and then
Mhm.
up another street. I don't know if it was called Beach Street or, I don't remember.
There's a beach street around there. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was a Beach Street. We lived near the prison.
Yes. But the school was in the other direction as the prison.
We had to pass it to go to our school.
Oh, the big prison with the high walls.
Yeah,
Okay, the prison is, if you came out of your door and went to the left, that would take you away from the prison. The prison was in back of you.
right.
If you were on the north side.
Yeah.
If you were on the south side, you would come out your door and make a...
If I went out the front door,
Yes.
I'd make a left down to the corner,
Uh-huh.
and then I'd make another left up to
Oh,
Spring
I
Garden
see.
Street,
Oh, okay, yeah, that would take you right to the prison.
and that was the prison.
Yes. And then you would pass the prison, and it would probably be on your right.
Yeah,
And you'd see those tall walls,
yeah.
the prison walls with the
Yeah.
guard posts on the
Yeah,
corners.
I walked past them every day.
Yeah. And then once you passed the prison, did you make another turn, or was it on... that's not Spring Garden, that's actually Fairmount that the prison is on. So if you came out of Wallace, out of your house, and made a left off your door step, and then a left on the 20th Street, that would take you right to the prison. And then you'd have to make a left or a right. So you would be walking down 20th Street looking at the prison. And then you would have to make a left or a right when you reach the prison.
I had to make a right to
All
go
right.
to where the school was.
And the school was on the right. Okay. And that was Fairmount.
Yeah, around there. somewhere.
Spring Garden is where the Mint was. Remember the Mint building?
I don't remember that too well.
That was about 16th and Spring Garden.
Oh,
So I don't know if you ever had a need to go down that way.
no.
No.
We weren't allowed to go too far away from home.
Mm-hmm. But you were able to go to the library.
Yeah, we were allowed to do that.
It was free, right? And that was one of the best things you like
Yeah.
about. In the Depression,
Yeah.
things that were free ice cream.
And the library was across from the museum.
There was many. The library is on Vine Street, and Vine Street has many museums on it. There's the Benjamin Franklin Museum, the Franklin Institute. There's the big museum at the end of the parkway there. Do you remember Logan Square?
Sounds familiar.
It's a park right in the middle of the road there, across from the library. It's kind of in the middle of all the roads and a circle that goes around it.
Yeah, we used to sit down there, my sister and I.
There was a fountain there.
Yeah, that's where we sat.
Put your feet in the water in the summer? No?
Sometimes.
So if you were sitting on the fountain at Logan Square, you would be able to see the steps of the art museum.
Right.
The very famous steps.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a little distance away.
Yeah.
But dramatic, because this road leads up to this beautiful big building.
It wasn't that far.
Right, but when you were also at the fountain, you could see the library.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, another classical building, huge.
The library, then the museum was on the other side.
The library has a twin right to the right of it, and that's the family court building. Well, that's what it is today. I'm not sure what it was originally, but I think it was always a court building, and that would have been right to the right of the library.
Oh,
And they look like they were twins. You
I
know,
don't remember that.
it may have come later. The library was finished in 1927. So if you were there in 1930, for example, or 31, it would have been pretty new. A new building. Probably not even filled yet. But you did say that you remember being in the library.
Oh, yeah.
Did you spend a lot of time there?
Yeah, we were always looking for books.
Yeah? What were your favorite books to look for in the library?
Mostly stories.
Fiction.
Yeah.
I like fiction. Was your sister a fan of fiction too, or was she into science, or?
I never really paid any attention to what she got. I
Yeah.
wasn't interested in anything that she did. I really wasn't, Russell.
Mm-hmm. So, Graham, you were born in Phoenixville and then moved to Philadelphia, and that was a pretty big culture jump. You went from this small town in Pennsylvania to the largest town in Pennsylvania, and then from there, you went from simple architecture in Phoenixville to a more complex architecture on Wallace Street. But to go inside of a building like the library, which was bigger than life, columns that were taller than your whole house, doorways that a little girl would look like an ant walking through.
It was big.
You remember it being very big?
Yeah.
And you probably had a feeling when you went in those doors.
Well,
Was
we
it?
loved those. My sister loved books, and so did I. But I really never paid attention to what she picked out.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So did you, while you were in the library, was it a very quiet place, or would you play in there maybe occasionally? Never.
We're loud.
You had to be quiet and find your book. Did you read in there, or did you get your books and leave?
Well, we used to sit down at the table, and look at what the book that you picked out to see if you really wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
You wouldn't read in there.
Yeah.
Do you think that was just because you had a favorite spot at home that you like to read in, or?
Yeah, it's just my mother, we couldn't stay away from home too long.
All right.
We only had a certain amount of time.
Well, it must have been hard for her as well. In Phoenixville, she could keep her hands on you everywhere, but now you're in a big city. So for a parent, that must be difficult.
But she lost our apartment building.
Yeah.
She had to move back.
Right. Well, while she was in the city, it must have been difficult for her to manage a business and try and manage her 2 daughters all by herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's city of
Because
Philadelphia.
we were very busy.
Yeah. Well, you like sports too, right?
Oh, yeah.
What sports did you play?
Well, at that time, it was mostly on a bicycle.
And you had a bicycle.
No,
Borrowed?
yeah.
Hmm. Was there a lot of parks around the city then?
A lot of parks.
Yeah. Or did you play on the street, or
Street.
any ball games that happened?
Just baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody kicked around any balls, or?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to remember everything.
Yeah, I know.
It's so long ago.
You're doing really good, Ground. To give me a lot of information. Oh, tell me about the.
When we moved on that block where we lived on Wallace Street, 20th of Wallace, it was just beginning to turn from high class to a lower class.
A working class. Mm-hmm.
And the people that were still there didn't like it. They were like aristocrats.
Yeah.
And they didn't want their children playing with the poorer class of children.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
That did bother me.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing though how buildings like libraries, when you go in, you don't recognize a class? That you share the same space
Yeah,
with somebody that's your neighbor who's an aristocrat. But yet in that space, you feel like them and they feel like you.
yeah,
Nobody has a class in there.
not in the library.
The only person you're concerned with in the library is maybe the librarian. You know, that you don't want to do anything that will irritate the librarian.
You never did.
That was the only person that mattered.
Yeah, I never had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But neighborhoods were strange.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why that neighborhood is so protected now.
What's it like now?
It's beautiful. There's beautiful trees going down the street, and the stoops are all still there.
They are?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like some type of soaps or a white marble type stoop.
Yeah,
Kind of.
exactly. That's what they were.
Yeah.
Marble.
Mm-hmm.
They had to be scrubbed every day.
Yeah.
It was a thing that you did.
But they couldn't have gotten dirty in a day.
No, but it was the thing that you did.
If you didn't do it, people would be mad, right?
What?
If you didn't do it, the neighbors would be mad.
Everybody scrubbed their steps every day.
How about those bricks? Did they get swept?
Oh, the bricks on the side of the house?
The bricks on the street, on the walkway. Because you had your stoop, and then you had the brick.
No, you just swept them.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a wall where the cellar windows were.
Yes.
There was a wall, came up about that high. That had to be scrubbed.
Was that also marble?
It's either cement,
I remember seeing some houses that had those smaller walls.
yeah, I don't know if it was cement or marble, but that had to be scrubbed.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the people next door to us had a maid.
Yeah.
She did it.
And that was before school you scrubbed that.
It was a thing you had to do. It don't make sense, but that's what you had to do.
Right.
You had to wash your steps every day.
Yeah.
And we were poor, so my sister and I had to do it.
Did you ever have the need to walk from your house into Center City? Where City Hall was or anything?
We were loud.
Well, that's not to say that you didn't do it.
Yeah, we did it, but we were loud.
Mm-hmm. But wasn't there an obstruction in between you and Center City? The Chinese Wall? The railroad tracks that cut through the city there?
Railroad tracks?
Yeah. It was called the Chinese Wall. Nicknamed the Chinese Wall. Was I believe an elevated rail line that cut in between you and Center City. And then it made a turn and went right into the rail houses at the Reading terminal.
Yeah, there was something like that, but I don't remember that too well.
No?
It never bothered us. All I remember is walking from Wall Street all the way down to the museum.
Mm-hmm. And you went up the steps?
So we sat on the steps. We just liked to do that.
Yeah.
It's like an exercise or something. Something to do.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful walk. There's lots of trees along that road. Do you know there was a subway right there too?
No, I didn't
If
know.
you were walking from your house to the art museum with the steps, you would go over Pennsylvania Avenue. And Pennsylvania Avenue had a subway underneath of it.
It did?
Yes. Yeah, it was a rail line that went underground underneath the art museum around that area, underneath Pennsylvania Avenue. Pennsylvania Avenue is the one that cuts diagonal from Fairmount to the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. That's the road that the museum was on. It would cut across diagonal, and then it would go kind of like one block south of Spring Garden, and it would go all the way underneath and then pop out around Broad Street, around that area, and then it would go into the rail lines as well. But the Chinese Wall was eventually destroyed because it disconnected your neighborhood from Center City. And you know how I found out about this Chinese Wall? You told me about it.
I did?
Uh-huh.
I didn't do that.
Yep. You told me about the Chinese Wall that blocked you from Center City. And I researched it, and there was for sure a railway that they nicknamed the Chinese Wall because it went straight into Chinatown. It started at Chinatown and went straight out
Wow.
along the city. But believe it or not, that was what kept your neighborhood so aristocratic. 'Cause
Really?
It made your neighborhood very independent.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We used to have a trolley went right past our house.
The trolley went down
Yeah.
20th or Wallace
Wallace.
or 20th.
20th of Wallace.
But it was on Wallace and not 20th Street, or both.
It went past our house and we lived in the 2000 block.
Oh, right. So it went right down Wallace Street.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but then they got rid of it, trolleys.
Yeah. You know why they got rid of the trolleys? General Motors was faced with bankruptcy, and the federal government was trying to bail them out of bankruptcy, and General Motors came up with an idea to push the sale of their buses and automobiles by eliminating public transportation, or portions of public transportation. And that's why all the trolleys went away across America. Doesn't make any sense that they ever went away, right?
That's a shame.
They can share the road with cars, right?
Is that why there was no more trolleys?
That's why there was no more trolleys. Mm-hmm. They started eliminating trolleys in the 30s. Between
I'm trying to
probably
remember.
1930 and 1960 is when they really started eliminating the trolleys.
The block down below us, well, above us was Spring Garden Street. Below us,
Going towards Philadelphia
yeah,
was Spring Garden Street.
Spring Garden.
Yes. If you went towards Philadelphia, you would have to cross over Spring Garden Street. If you were going to the prison, you would have to cross over Fairmount Avenue.
Yeah,
They're two different directions. We'll say the prison is north, and
Fairmount Avenue was a wide street.
yes, very wide. And so was Spring Garden.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we had quite a walk to school. We went to school. I can't remember the name of that school. I think it was this one, Beach Street or something like that. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. So how did your family get groceries and things in the neighborhood? You had your fish market close by, but I'm sure your mother sent you out a lot to get things at the store. Are they close by?
I'm trying to think. Where did we get our food from?
Was there another store across the street from you?
Yeah, there's a store, another store in the other corner called the American Store.
Uh-huh.
That was the name of it, American Stores.
And that was a corner store?
Yeah,
Groceries?
yeah.
You didn't have to go far for food.
No,
Mm-hmm. Did they sell candy in there?
yeah.
But then your milk was probably delivered to the doorstep?
What?
Your milk was delivered?
Yeah, I think that was delivered to the house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember buying milk.
Oh. Huh.
I just remember that one family next door to us, the Drews,
Yeah.
they were so snobby. Well, we were beneath them. They would have nothing to do with us.
Right.
They ignored my mother completely. It's like, and yet they were living in the same environment that we were.
Yeah. Huh. That was the family that you would you could see them when they were eating dinner
Yeah, you could.
with their beautifully set up table and
The maids.
yeah.
They had a maid and a butler.
Mhm.
And their food was served to them.
Hmm.
And it always fascinated me because they were all dressed up, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's dressed, always dressed. But they had a son. And we were the same age. But he liked me and I liked him, but I wasn't allowed to go into his house at all. And he wasn't allowed to come into mine.
Because of his parents.
Yeah.
Your mother would let a friend come in,
My
right?
mother would take anybody. She was, nothing bothered her.
She was tough.
Real tough. She had a boyfriend.
In Philadelphia?
He lived upstairs on the 4th floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had their little lovey-dovey times. I never saw anything, but I know she wasn't in her apartment one day, and I thought I'm going to go up the 4th floor and see if she's up there. And I wasn't supposed to do that, you know. And I went up and knocked at the door, and they told me to come in. My mother was in there. She was socializing with this man. Just one of those things.
Yeah. Who else do you remember from the neighborhood?
She was lonely. What?
Who else do you remember from the neighborhood? Is there any more young people?
Oh, yeah, there were young people. Not too many. The one family, they were aristocrats. But I became friendly with the daughter and their son. And we liked each other, so I was allowed in their house. I was quite an honor, you know.
Yeah.
I was surprised. They were pretty nice.
Oh, nice.
Their house fascinated me because they had such nice things,
Right.
you know. We didn't have things like that. And
So-
then the day came, we had to move. And my mother was heartbroken. She did not want to go. There were 2 real estate men that somehow cheated her out of that house. I don't know how they did it, but she cried terrible.
Mm-hmm.
She lost it. And, I hope they never had any luck for that. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe they were broke too, Grandma.
But they took the house away from my mother.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe they just didn't have leniency because it was such a bad time. You know, for example, I loan you $5. Well, today I could care less about it. But a year from now, I could have $0. And that $5 is very important to me. So they may have gave her a deal originally. That was a good deal.
Yeah.
But later, they were broke. And they had to recoup.
Oh,
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I just know that depression was a bad time. Many people went broke.
Yeah, it was a depression. But we had to move back to Phoenixville. But she still had our little old house there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to show that to you sometime.
You did show it to me once.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we went from Valley Forge once, and you drove me to Phoenixville,
Oh,
and you showed me where you grew up. You also showed me where you used to swim. In the
Fridge Creek?
yeah, in the creek.
Yeah, there were snakes in there. we still went.
Of course you did. You were a kid and it was fun.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Snakes didn't bother us.
Uh-uh. So, looking back on your time in Philadelphia, now that I brought up a lot of the past, what was the most memorable experience about living on Wallace Street and in Philadelphia?
I just liked it there, that's all.
You
I
did
li-
like it there
I liked it.
For
I did
its-
not want to move.
for its culture. You liked the
I just liked the way we lived
yeah.
there. I really did. And I felt sorry for my mother
Uh-huh.
because she didn't want to leave either.
Right.
But the realtor, they took the house from her.
Huh.
I don't know how they did that.
I could probably find out for you.
Huh?
I could probably find out.
How could you do that?
I could go to the. Hopefully, they have a record, a title transfer, and it went from someone to your mother, and then from your mother to someone else. And then when that title transfers, there has to be documentation that supports a title transfer. You may have information on, were they the realtors from the bank that foreclosed? And that's what it may say.
That was sad for her
Uh-huh.
because she was always trying to lift herself up, and every time she did, she went down.
Yep.
She never seemed to stay up top.
Mm-hmm.
She tried. But she was left with two little girls and nobody to help her. And things were really rough,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had anything. I don't know how she did it. Just to put food on the table.
Right.
She said she should never have married the man that she married, who was my father, because he was poor.
Huh.
And well, I guess she was in love, and
Yeah.
that was her downfall.
Well, thanks, Grandma.